The new lead developer at my firm was a self-proclaimed genius with a massive chip on her shoulder. She claimed she was here to fix the toxic corporate culture. During a high-stakes dinner with our biggest investor, she didn't just refuse to play along. She flipped the table and slapped the client across the face. "My value lies in my technical skills, not in playing hostess," she declared. "Pandering to these archaic social games is an insult to my dignity." Jasper Vance, our CEO, watched in horror as the investor tore up a $12 million contract on the spot. The man swore he would never work with us again. As the product director, I had to spend the night groveling. I drank until I was hospitalized for alcohol poisoning just to keep the company from sinking. When I finally got out and demanded Jasper handle the situation, he brushed me off. He looked at me with total indifference. "If an employee messes up, it's because their superior failed to manage them," Jasper said. "Your year-end bonus is cancelled. Consider this a wake-up call." I had reached my limit. I added Maya Sterling's name to the layoff list for the upcoming restructuring. She wasn't even scared. She looked at me with pure disdain. "I have real talent, unlike a brown-noser like you who only knows how to kiss ass," she sneered. "If anyone tries to move me, the entire project will crash. Don't come crawling back to me when you're crying over the ruins." I didn't argue. But when the final layoff list was posted, my own name was at the very top. Jasper claimed it was a clerical error, then used the opportunity to force me out. He immediately promoted Maya to director and gave her executive powers. "You only reached the top because this company carried you, Evelyn," Jasper told me. "Maya is young and actually has talent. She'll take us to heights you never could." I let out a cold laugh. I packed my core tech files and headed straight for the doors of our biggest competitor. "Mr. Thorne, I've decided to take the offer. Is there any room to negotiate the salary package we discussed?" Inside the sleek office of our rival firm, I laid a heavy folder on the desk. I was ready to play hardball. "Of course," Marcus Thorne replied with a shark-like grin. "Evelyn, you're the most formidable woman in this industry. If you sign today, I guarantee your annual dividends will be in the seven-figure range at minimum." With that promise, I felt zero regret leaving my old firm behind. I signed the contract without a second thought. I went back to my old office to finish the handover. Looking at the familiar decor, I felt a pang of bitterness. I joined this startup right after college, full of dreams. Jasper Vance had sold me a vision and I bought it. I spent 10 years climbing from an entry-level sales rep to product director. I sacrificed my health, my sleep, and my social life for that place. I generated millions in profit for Jasper. And yet, the moment Maya showed up, he handed her my legacy on a silver platter. "Oh, look who's back. Is the job market that bad, Evelyn?" I ran into Maya and a few former colleagues near the elevator. She looked me up and down with a smug expression. "Don't be too sad. In this world, as long as a woman is willing to be flexible with her morals, she'll always find a way to eat." I ignored her, but she stepped in my way, blocking the path. "What's the rush? Did I hit a nerve?" she asked, raising her voice for everyone to hear. "Everyone knows how you landed those contracts. You enjoyed the perks back then, so why act like a saint now?" The office went quiet as people began to stare. I could feel their judgmental eyes crawling over me. "Maya, watch your mouth," I snapped. "If you think business is only done in bed, you're insulting every woman in the sales department." Bella Reed, my former assistant, let out a sharp giggle. "Evelyn, she's just saying what we're all thinking. There's no need to get so defensive unless it's true." The other colleagues nodded in agreement, their faces full of mockery. "She's not the boss anymore, but she's still trying to act tough," someone whispered. "I always hated how she hogged all the resources. Maya is only behind because she actually has standards." I felt a chill run through my veins. These were people I had worked with for years. "I treated you all like friends. I protected your jobs when the company was failing," I said, my voice trembling with anger. "Bella, you sent a cost sheet to a client instead of a quote when you started. I stayed up all night fixing it so you wouldn't get sued for millions." I pointed at another man in the group. "And you, who gave you their own bonus when you couldn't afford rent. Have you forgotten?" Maya stepped in, cutting me off. "Helping juniors is your job. Why are you trying to use favors from years ago to guilt-trip them now?" The colleagues looked relieved, praising Maya for her grace while labeling me as petty. I stopped arguing and walked toward my private office. When I pushed the door open, my blood boiled. My personal belongings were scattered everywhere. My computer was logged in, my private files and chats were open. The locked drawer had been pried open, and its contents were gone. Even the framed photo of my family had been torn to shreds. Someone had dumped a bowl of old noodles right on top of the ruins. Who did this? I screamed, my vision blurring with rage. The busy office fell into a dead silence. Maya sauntered in, looking perfectly composed. "Don't get so worked up. I did it," she said, blinking innocently. "Jasper said we're short on space. Since you don't work here anymore, your desk needs to go to someone who actually contributes." She picked up a study guide for a government certification from the mess and smirked. I didn't realize a community college sales girl, like you, had such big dreams. Planning to hide in a government office now that you're fired. We couldn't tell what was yours and what belonged to the company, so we just kept everything. You don't mind, right? Bella chimed in from the doorway. How do we know she didn't steal company property? We should probably search her. Maybe we should make her take off her coat and check her pockets. I looked at them, disgusted by their cruelty. You're using a professional transition to settle a personal grudge. Maya signaled to a couple of the larger guys in the department. They began to close in around me. I'm just protecting company interests. Who can guarantee your hands are clean? I was shaking with fury. Maya put her hands on her hips and addressed the room. Evelyn, we were colleagues once. I don't want to make this ugly. Are you going to strip search yourself, or do we have to help you? I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. I wanted to slap the fake smile right off her face. When I didn't move, Maya picked up my laptop. She hovered her finger over the delete key. You've spent years building your contact list, haven't you? All your precious leads are on here. If I hit delete, they're gone forever. Or you can give the guys a little show, and maybe I'll let you leave with your dignity. I took a deep breath. I pulled out my phone, snapped photos of the trashed office, and dialed 911. Hello? I'd like to report a theft. Someone stole 2 gold bars from my desk worth nearly $100,000. Maya's face went pale. She tried to swat the phone out of my hand. Nobody stole anything. Stop lying, she screamed. Just then, Jasper finally showed up. He looked at me with pure annoyance. Evelyn, I told you that putting your name on the layoff list was a mistake. If you had just accepted a pay cut, I would have kept you. But you chose to leave. Now you're back here causing a scene? Do you have to ruin everyone's day? I explained what had happened, but Jasper just rolled his eyes. A search? So what? You're being way too sensitive. I tried to call the police again, but he grabbed my wrist, his eyes turning cold and threatening. Drop it, Evelyn. I know people in high places. If you make a scene, I'll make sure you never work in this city again. Maya cheered, looking like she'd already won. See, without this company, you're nothing but a stray dog, Evelyn. Actually, our janitor just quit. Given your experience, maybe I can convince Jasper to let you scrub the toilets. The crowd burst into laughter. Jasper even chuckled. It's good honest work, Evelyn. Think about it. I looked at their ugly, laughing faces and suddenly, I smiled. You're right, Jasper. Since I've already been fired, why should I care about my reputation? I pointed my finger right at his nose. Remember that $12 million investment? You promised me a huge bonus if I landed it. But when Maya messed up, you made me the scapegoat and canceled my check. I turned to the colleagues who were still laughing. Today he's stealing my bonus. Who do you think is next? Do you really think your loyalty matters to a man who sleeps with his new hires? The color drained from their faces. The room went quiet. Maya's face turned a bright, angry red. Evelyn, shut up. Jasper and I are strictly professional. I raised an eyebrow. I didn't mention any names, Maya. Why are you so quick to jump into the spotlight? She looked like she was about to choke. Enough. Jasper slammed his hand on a desk. The investor is my distant cousin. That deal was signed because of my connections, not your work. You were just a warm body in the room. You're lucky I don't sue you for incompetence. You should be paying the company for the privilege of working here. I almost laughed. Jasper actually believed his own lies. Maya perked up again. Exactly. Jasper is the genius. I slapped that investor, and he still wants to work with us. We have the core technology. We're invincible. We don't even need a sales department. I felt a pang in my stomach. Hearing her talk about the tech I built as if it were hers made me feel sick. Stop faking the pain, Maya sneered. You were just the girl who poured the drinks. You were born to serve. If you drink yourself to death, that's on you. I sighed. It was useless to talk to them. The investment was indeed tied to the technology, but I was the one who coded it. I had a degree in computer science, but I moved to sales because the company was a mess and needed someone who could actually talk to people. The investor didn't care about Jasper. I had spent weeks helping him fix his own data leaks for free just to get him to listen to my pitch. Jasper was so blinded by his own ego that he fired the only person who knew how the system actually worked. Sign the NDA and the exit papers, Evelyn. You're useless to us now, Jasper said, tossing a stack of papers at me. I picked up the pen. As I was about to sign, I felt a hand on my waist. Jasper leaned in, whispering in my ear. You've got a lot of fire, Evelyn. It's a shame you're so stubborn. If you learn to be more like Maya, I might have a different kind of contract for you. The disgust hit me like a wave. I spun around and slapped Jasper across the face as hard as I could. The sound echoed through the entire floor. Jasper clutched his cheek, his face contorting with rage. You bitch. You think you're better than everyone else? You're just a washed-up loser. I threw the signed papers at his face. He glared at me, his chest heaving. Don't think this is over. I'm triggering your non-compete clause. You're blacklisted. You'll never work in tech again. I didn't answer. I just walked toward my desk. Maya was still holding my laptop, scrolling through my encrypted folders. Can you even understand that? I mocked. I thought you were a genius. Why do you need my notes? Maya turned to me, her eyes flaring. This garbage? I could write this in my sleep. You're pathetic for treating this trash like a treasure. I just smiled. If it's trash, why are you digging through it? Worried you're not as smart as you claim? That did it. Maya screamed in frustration. She dragged my entire project folder, 10 gigabytes of data, into the trash and hit empty. I watched 10 years of my life vanish in a second. I didn't feel sad. I felt free. Suddenly, Jasper's phone rang. His face went pale as he listened. The investor says the program is crashing. Maya, find the source code. They need to see the architecture right now. Maya froze. Sure. I'm on it. I picked up my box of belongings and walked out the door. My phone buzzed with a notification. It was an acceptance letter from the government. At the same time, Marcus Thorne called me. Evelyn, I heard Jasper is trying to blacklist you. He's even threatening to sue you for damages. If you need anything, let me know. I'll handle the legal fees. I smiled. Don't worry, Marcus. Jasper thinks he can ruin me with a non-compete clause. I won't be working for you for a while. I found a much bigger protector. 3 days after walking out of Vance Technologies, I stepped into the granite and glass atrium of the Federal Technology and Infrastructure Security Administration. There were no ping-pong tables, no neon signs preaching disruptive hustle, and no self-appointed visionary CEOs wandering around in overpriced sneakers. Just armed security checkpoints, quiet efficiency, and the low, steady hum of enterprise servers running beneath the foundation. Director Evelyn Reed? A woman in a sharp charcoal suit approached me, holding an encrypted keycard and a leader dossier. I'm Arthur Sterling's chief of staff, Clara, she said, extending a hand. The Director General has been reviewing your security architecture framework since 6 this morning. He said your fault-tolerant data structure is the only system he's seen in 5 years that could withstand a Tier 4 state-level breach. I shook her hand firmly. It's an honor, Clara. The honor is ours, she replied, leading me through the biometric security gates. When you passed the National Cyber Architecture examination with the highest score in the district, we thought you were going to stay in private equity. We were thrilled when you accepted the senior lead auditor position. As we entered the private elevator, my personal phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a courier delivery alert. Legal notice delivered to your residential address. Attached was a scanned PDF from Vance Technologies legal counsel. Formal notice of intent to sue for breach of non-compete, theft of intellectual property, and malicious sabotage. The letter was signed personally by Jasper Vance. According to the filing, my unauthorized departure had caused catastrophic instability in their flagship cloud system. They were demanding $40 million in liquidated damages and an immediate court injunction barring me from working in the software industry for 36 months. I didn't even blink. I closed the email and locked my screen. In the corporate world, Jasper thought non-compete clauses were weapons he could swing to starve former employees into submission. What his cheap corporate lawyers didn't realize was that state-level public safety appointments and federal regulatory oversight roles are entirely exempt from private commercial non-competes. In fact, Vance Technologies had just submitted their final bid for the $50 million municipal grid modernization project, a contract overseen directly by my new department. Is everything all right, Director Reed? Clara asked, noticing my phone. Everything is fine, I said, a cold smile touching my lips. Just an old vendor trying to explain why their engine won't start after throwing out the spark plugs. Inside the main open plan office of Vance Technologies, absolute pandemonium was unfolding. What do you mean the decryption key doesn't work? Jasper roared, his face flushed purple as he slammed his fist onto the mahogany conference table. The investors' technical team is flying in from Chicago tomorrow. If the platform isn't live, they're pulling the remaining $8 million in funding. Maya Sterling sat at the head of the developer's bench, her face pale, her fingers flying desperately across 3 separate mechanical keyboards. The previous developer left a backdoor trap. Maya shouted back, her voice shrill with panic. She intentionally encrypted the core indexing library with a non-standard dynamic seed. It's malicious sabotage. I'm writing a bypass script right now. How long will that take? Jasper demanded, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. 2, maybe 3 hours, Maya lied, cold sweat dripping down her neck. In reality, Maya had spent the last 48 hours staring at raw assembly code and decompiled binaries, understanding less than 10% of it. when she had arrogantly dragged Evelyn's project folder into the recycle bin and hit empty. She thought she was just deleting some messy unformatted documentation. She believed the compiled application running on the server was an independent entity that would keep functioning forever on its own. She didn't know that Evelyn's architecture relied on an hourly asynchronous handshake between the front-end cache and a proprietary distributed ledger she had designed from scratch. Without Evelyn's daily cryptographic key rotations, which Evelyn had automated through her local terminal, the server's security protocol assumed it was under a brute force attack and automatically locked down every database table. Maya, the client portal just threw a 503 error, Bella Reed whispered from the door, looking terrified. 3 enterprise clients are calling customer service. They can't access their billing data. Tell them it's routine maintenance. Maya snapped, throwing her mouse against the wall. Stop bothering me with administrative garbage. Can't you see I'm doing real engineering work? Bella flinched, shrinking back into the hallway. For the past 3 years, whenever a client threw a fit or a system experienced a minor glitch, Evelyn would calmly take the call, diffuse the client's anger within 5 minutes, and fix the script in 3 lines of code. Now, with Evelyn gone, the office felt like a bomb with a burning fuse. Jasper grabbed his coat, glaring at Maya. You have until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. If that system isn't running perfectly when the city inspectors and the Chicago investors sit down in this room, I will hold you personally liable for every cent of lost revenue. Don't threaten me, Jasper. Maya shot back, trying to maintain her arrogant facade. I'm the only one here with the intellect to fix this. If you fire me, this company dies tonight. Jasper stormed out, slamming the glass door so hard that spiderweb cracks bloomed across the pane. The next morning, the grand conference hall of the State Procurement Center was packed with over 200 high-level executives, venture capitalists, and industry analysts. Today was the final demonstration for the Municipal Smart Grid project, the largest public-private technology tender of the decade. Jasper Vance arrived with his entire executive team, all dressed in bespoke suits, trying desperately to project an aura of effortless triumph. Maya walked beside him, heavily caked in makeup to hide the dark circles under her eyes, clutching an encrypted flash drive as if it were a holy relic. Look at the competition, Jasper sneered, gesturing toward Marcus Thorne, who was standing near the front row with his engineers. Thorne thought he could steal our thunder, but our distributed architecture is 2 years ahead of his. Don't worry, Jasper, Maya whispered, though her hands were trembling inside her blazer pockets. I managed to hard-code a simulation loop last night. Even if the real-time data crashes, the presentation interface will show 99% uptime. Nobody will know the difference until after the contract is signed. Good, Jasper muttered, a sinister grin spreading across his face. Once we lock in the $50 million government grant, I'll use $20 million to bury Evelyn in court fees until she's homeless. That ungrateful bitch will learn what happens when you cross me. Just then, the main double doors at the back of the auditorium swung open. The master of ceremonies stepped up to the podium, tapping the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We are honored to welcome the newly appointed Chief Inspector of the Federal Technology Security Bureau, who will be personally conducting the technical live load audit today. Jasper chuckled, leaning back in his leather seat. A government bureaucrat. Probably some ancient academic who doesn't even know how cloud computing works. This will be an easy pass. 4 armed federal marshals entered the room, clearing a path down the center aisle. Behind them walked a tall, elegant woman in an immaculate navy pantsuit, her dark hair pulled back in a sharp, professional chignon, carrying a state-sealed tablet. The room fell dead silent. Jasper's smirk froze. Maya's jaw dropped so low she dropped her leather notepad onto the floor. Evelyn. She walked with measured, effortless grace, her heels clicking against the polished terrazzo tiles with absolute authority. She didn't look left or right. She climbed the steps to the stage, took her seat at the central judicial panel, and adjusted her microphone. Good morning. Evelyn's clear, commanding voice echoed through the high-ceilinged hall. I am Director Evelyn Reed. Today, we evaluate the system, stability, security integrity, and source code authenticity of all qualifying candidates for the municipal infrastructure tender. Jasper leaped to his feet from the VIP row, his eyes bulging with rage. Objection! Jasper screamed, pointing a trembling finger at the stage. This is an outrage. This woman was fired from my company 3 days ago for gross incompetence and corporate theft. She is bound by an active non-compete clause. She has no right to sit on that panel. The entire auditorium erupted into hushed murmurs and gasps. Evelyn looked down from the stage, her gaze cool, calm, and entirely unimpressed. The chief legal officer for the State Procurement Board stood up beside Evelyn, looking at Jasper as if he were an uneducated insect. Mr. Vance, the legal officer said, his voice ringing with cold severity. Director Reed was appointed directly by the Executive Office of the state, following her historic performance on the National Infrastructure Defense Board. Under Title 18 of the Federal Procurement Code, federal auditors are constitutionally exempt from all private commercial non-competes. Furthermore, Evelyn said, leaning into her microphone, if Mr. Vance believes my presence creates a conflict of interest, he is more than welcome to withdraw Vance Technologies from the bidding process immediately. Jasper choked on his words, his face alternating between chalk white and deep crimson. Withdraw. If he withdrew now, his private investors would default on their bridge loans by noon, and his company would be bankrupt before the market closed. No, we do not withdraw, Jasper hissed, slowly sinking back into his chair. His fists clenched so tightly his fingernails dug into his palms. He leaned toward Maya, his voice a venomous whisper. Is the simulation bulletproof? Yes, Maya squeaked, wiping cold sweat from her forehead. The front-end interface is completely isolated. She can't break into the demo loop without the local admin password. Candidate number 1, Thorne Global Systems, the announcer called out. Marcus Thorne stepped onto the stage, presenting his team's microgrid data platform. His architecture was clean, robust, and functional. Evelyn questioned his lead engineer for 10 minutes on latency recovery and server redundancy, nodding with quiet approval as Thorne's team answered with precise empirical data. Candidate number 2, Vance Technologies, the announcer announced. Jasper stood up, buttoning his jacket, and motioned for Maya to join him on the stage. Maya plugged her flash drive into the master testing terminal. The massive projector screens overhead lit up with Vance Technologies' sleek minimalist dashboard. Graphs rose smoothly, displaying simulated data streams, zero packet loss, and an impressive 99.99% throughput rate. Jasper took the presentation clicker, flashing his trademark charming smile at the crowd. Distinguished panel, what you see before you is the next generation of neural adaptive grid computing. Unlike traditional legacy platforms, our system automatically heals its own data corridors without the need for manual intervention. Maya puffed her chest out, glancing smugly at Evelyn. This proprietary code was architected entirely by my engineering team. It proves that real technical innovation relies on pure genius, not on outdated, brown-nosing bureaucratic methods. A few junior developers in the audience whispered among themselves, seemingly impressed by the numbers on the screen. Evelyn sat quietly on the panel, letting them finish their entire 20-minute pitch without interrupting once. When Jasper finally clicked to the summary slide, he smiled arrogantly at Evelyn. We are ready for your questions, Director Reed. If you can understand the underlying math, that is. Evelyn smiled back, a sharp, lethal curve of her lips. I have only one question, Mr. Vance, Evelyn said calmly, tapping a few keys on her state-issued terminal. If this platform is a self-healing, proprietary neural architecture created by Miss Sterling, why is the core cryptographic module still attempting to authenticate against my personal private server every 30 seconds? Maya's smile vanished instantly. What are you talking about? Maya stammered, stepping toward the console. That's a lie. This system is running locally on an independent container. Is it? Evelyn raised an eyebrow. With a single click from Evelyn's tablet, the main presentation screen split in two. On the left was Vance Technologies' beautiful, colorful dashboard. On the right was the raw, real-time diagnostic log running in the background. The entire auditorium watched in stunned silence as millions of lines of red error code flooded the right-hand screen like an uncontrollable waterfall. Critical_UTH_failure. Key_seed_found. Origin_author. Evelyn_read_fruit. Security_tamper_detected. Local system running static hard-coded loop. Warning. Live database purged on October 24th by user, Maya_Sterling. The crowd gasped. The venture capitalists in the front row leaned forward, their expressions turning thunderous. What is the meaning of this? One of the primary Chicago investors shouted, standing up from his seat. The database was purged 3 days ago. You're presenting a pre-recorded mock-up loop? No. It's a glitch. It's a network latency issue. Maya shrieked, grabbing the mouse and frantically trying to close the terminal window. But the terminal had been locked by the state audit network. Miss Sterling, Evelyn's voice cut through the chaos like a diamond blade. You claimed on stage that this system heals itself. So let us conduct a standard stress test. Evelyn tapped a single red button on her console. I am currently injecting a synthetic load of 50,000 concurrent simulated users into your gateway. Stop. Don't do that. Maya screamed, completely losing her composure. It was too late. The moment the 50,000 packets hit the server, the sleek dashboard froze. The smooth green graphs shattered into jagged red lines. Then, with a horrifying electronic whine from the auditorium sound system, the main screen went entirely black. A single block of white text appeared in the center of the darkness. Fatal system corruption. Exception in core engine. Original architecture deleted. Unauthorized patches introduced 4,821 critical vulnerabilities. System shutdown imminent. The backup server rack at the side of the stage began to emit a high-pitched alarm, followed by a faint wisp of gray smoke as the cooling fans failed under the runaway loop Maya had written the night before. The entire hall erupted into absolute chaos. Fraud, someone shouted from the balcony. They brought a fake demo to a state infrastructure bid. Jasper was shaking so violently he dropped his microphone. It hit the stage floor with a loud, deafening thud that echoed through the speakers. He turned on Maya, his face contorted in sheer, unadulterated madness. "You idiot!" Jasper roared, grabbing Maya by the shoulders in front of 200 industry leaders and live press cameras. "You told me you had the source code. You told me you were a genius. You deleted her files and gave me a smoking box of plastic. You told me she was useless." Maya screamed back, crying hysterically as she shoved Jasper away. "You said she was just a sales girl who slept around. You're the one who signed the layoff list. You ruined me." "Security," Evelyn said calmly into her microphone. "Please escort Mr. Vance and Miss Sterling off the presentation stage." 4 armed state marshals marched onto the stage, stepping between Jasper and Maya, firmly gripping their arms and leading them down the stairs. Jasper struggled against the guards, glaring up at Evelyn with bloodshot, crazed eyes. "Evelyn, you set me up," Jasper bellowed, his voice echoing off the high stone walls. "You planned this. You knew the key would expire. You sabotaged my company." Evelyn stood up from the judicial table, walked to the edge of the stage, and looked down at him with quiet, unshakable dignity. "I didn't sabotage anything, Jasper," Evelyn said, her voice carrying clearly across the silent room. "I spent 10 years building that engine. I maintained every line, protected every database, and guarded your company with my own health. You called that work kissing ass. You called my expertise replaceable." She looked at Maya, who was weeping uncontrollably, her designer blazer ruined with sweat and running mascara. "You wanted to show the world your real talent, Maya," Evelyn continued smoothly. "The world just saw it. It lasted exactly 42 seconds under real-world pressure. Take them to the holding area," the chief legal officer commanded. "The state Attorney General's division has already opened an investigation into procurement, fraud, securities manipulation, and false commercial misrepresentation." As the marshals dragged Jasper and Maya through the side exit, the entire auditorium rose to its feet, erupting into thunderous applause. Marcus Thorne stood in the front row, clapping with a wide, triumphant grin, nodding respectfully toward Evelyn. Evelyn adjusted her tablet, turned back to the remaining candidates, and resumed the session with absolute calm. "Next candidate, Thorne Global Systems. Please prepare your secondary integration modules." By 5 o'clock that evening, the collapse of Vance Technologies was the lead story across every major financial news network. Tech startup unravels at State Summit. CEO arrested for multi-million-dollar fraud. Lead developer exposed as fraud after live system meltdown. Investors withdraw $12 million contract, demand immediate liquidation. I sat in my private office on the top floor of the Federal Administration building, sipping a cup of hot Earl Grey tea, looking out over the illuminated skyline of the city. There was a soft knock on my door. "Director Reed?" Clara stepped in. "There are 3 people in the ground floor. Visitor lobby begging to see you. Security asked if you want them removed." "Who are they?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "A woman named Bella Reed, accompanied by 2 former department managers from Vance Technologies." I took a slow sip of my tea. "Send down a live security feed." Clara tapped her tablet, and the wall monitor switched to the ground floor lobby. Bella Reed was standing near the reception desk, clutching a cardboard box filled with her personal desk items, her face pale and swollen from crying. Beside her were the 2 senior developers who had laughed at me 3 days ago. When Maya threatened to search my coat, Vance Technologies had officially shut its doors at 4 o'clock. The bank had seized the company's accounts, the landlord had padlocked the office doors, and every single employee had been terminated without severance or reference letters. Bella looked directly up at the security camera, her hands clasped together in desperate prayer. "Evelyn, please," Bella was sobbing, her voice coming through the lobby intercom. "I'm sorry. I was stupid. Maya forced us to say those things. She threatened to fire us if we didn't support her. Evelyn, you know I have 2 kids and a mortgage. One of the male developers pleaded toward the lens. I gave you my loyalty for 5 years. Please just write us a recommendation letter for Thorn Global. Without your clearance, we're blacklisted across the entire state tech sector. I stared at the screen for a long, quiet moment. I remembered the cold winter nights when I stayed up until 3 a.m. fixing Bella's accounting blunders so she wouldn't lose her job. I remembered transferring $5,000 of my own personal bonus to that same male developer when his wife was in the hospital, asking for nothing in return. And I remembered how quickly they had turned on me the moment they thought a new master had arrived. I pressed the intercom button on my desk. Bella. My voice came through the lobby speaker, calm even and entirely devoid of warmth. Bella gasped, rushing closer to the speaker. Evelyn. Thank God. You're listening. When you told me 3 days ago that helping juniors is just a job, you were partially right, I said. Protecting your team is a leader's duty, but loyalty is a choice. You made yours in the hallway when you suggested stripping my coat. Evelyn, I was joking. It was just a joke. Bella cried, tears streaming down her face. I don't find corporate cruelty amusing, I replied. You wanted to see what the job market looks like without my protection. Now you have the rest of your careers to explore it. I clicked the intercom off. Clara, I said without looking back. Have security clear the lobby. Right away, Director. The monitor clicked black. 1 month later, the municipal infrastructure project was officially awarded to a joint partnership between Thorn Global Systems and the Federal Digital Security Bureau. The project launch gala was held at the Grand Hyatt Ballroom, attended by the city's top business leaders, civic officials, and international tech delegates. I stood on the mezzanine terrace, holding a glass of sparkling water, watching the city lights reflect across the dark expanse of the harbor. Marcus Thorn walked over, holding 2 glasses of champagne, offering one with a polite bow. To the real architect of our new digital grid, Marcus said, smiling warmly. The city owes you an immense debt, Evelyn. The city owes it to clean code and honest engineering. I smiled, clinking my glass against his. Have you heard the latest from the district court? Marcus asked, leaning against the railing. I haven't had time to check the tabloids, I replied. Jasper Vance was denied bail this morning, Marcus said. The forensic audit found $6 million in offshore embezzlement and 18 separate counts of workplace intimidation and civil rights violations. His family sold their private estate just to pay the initial legal retainer. And Maya? Marcus chuckled dryly. Her prestigious computer science degree was investigated. Turns out she paid an offshore ghostwriting firm to complete her entire master's thesis. The university revoked her credentials yesterday. Last I heard, she's facing civil litigation from 3 venture capital funds for fraudulent misrepresentation. I looked out over the skyline. 10 years of my youth had been poured into a startup that tried to erase my name. The moment I demanded basic human respect, they thought that by stealing my title, deleting my files, and tarnishing my reputation, they could reduce me to nothing. They forgot that a title is just a label given by others. True power doesn't come from a corner office, a flashy corporate logo, or a brown-nosing CEO's favor. True power is the knowledge in your head, the steel in your spine, and the courage to walk away when the table no longer serves your dignity. The cool evening breeze swept across the balcony, carrying the clean, fresh scent of the open sea. I raised my glass to the horizon, smiling at the limitless road ahead.